Welcome back to the Petcash pod presented by Profluent Sports. Excited to have Mike on today, building a super cool company in a pretty hot space. Been seeing more about it. So, Mike, appreciate you coming on and excited to get your insights today and learn a little bit more about what you're doing. And always cool, again, to have the athlete to then building in the sports business space. So another great one added to the queue from that standpoint.
Well, I appreciate it, Andrew. Thanks for having us. I'm excited to be here.
Give us the rundown. What was I want to start back one step.
Yeah.
From your football days, give us your experience, what it was like, any cool stories you have from it, and then maybe if there was any inspiration early on for the idea you're currently building or problems you saw that led to it. But I think it's always important to frame it from the athlete's mind first, and then into as you evolve further into more of the business space.
Yeah. So, I think it's interesting, and it's always funny, right? That once you're an athlete, you're always an athlete. It's one of those things that just sticks with you. So I was a pretty good high school football player in the state of Illinois in Chicago. And the thing I hated most about playing football in high school was the week leading up to the game. Like, I was all about Friday night, right? But Sunday through Thursday was just, what are we doing? Why do we got to spend this much time? And so going into college and into professional sports, I actually went to the baseball route because I just couldn't handle the practice. I just didn't like doing it. And so I was very fortunate, had a chance to play at the Division I level for a while, and then had a chance to play professionally for a very short period of time. And then I got into college coaching. I was at a couple different Division I stops, had a chance to do some scouting at the major league level. And in all of that time, one of the things that I paid a lot of attention to was just different ways that technology could always help us on the field, in the office, recruiting, whatever it was. And fast forward a bunch of years, I get married. My wife and I, we start having some children, and we were living in Chicago at the time, and we wanted to move a little closer to her family, so we moved to Minnesota, and I needed something to do. Well, it just so happens that after all of this time in baseball, a buddy of mine that I played high school football with was coaching at a local junior college. And I went out and watched him practice. And what was funny about it is that he was like in Mike Leach, air raid, throw the ball 740 times a game, right? Go as fast as you possibly can. And you got to the part of practice where they're trying to rep the other team's opponents in preparation for the upcoming game. And it was just mass chaos. Like, there's coaches screaming, guys running around with paper, players not running the right routes. And it was just, and I just couldn't believe that at this day and age, and this was back in 2014, 2015, I just could not believe that this hadn't evolved from what we did back in 1995 at, Joliet Catholic and Joliet Central High School. And so I spent a couple more days, like, going back and talking to my buddy, and I'm like, your practices suck. Like, what do you guys, like, how has this not gotten better? I said, so we sat down one night, and I was like, okay, walk me through the different solutions. He's like, well, we can give more coaches paper so they can try to talk to fewer kids, or we can print out these, like, elaborate wristbands that have all these, like, 6-point font play diagrams on there, and we got to assume that the kids can read it and look at it. And I was like, well, these are horrible options, and I can't believe that this hasn't gotten better. And so after about a week or so of watching them practice, and I bounced around to a couple of high schools because I wanted to see if it was just unique to that program. Like, was there just something disorganizationally focused around that program, or was it kind of a little larger scale problem? So a couple of high schools I went to in the area, very similar outcomes, just kind of chaos. And I said, I think I got an idea. I said, all we're trying to do is get information from the people who have it to the people who need it so they can do something with it. This is a very, very simple thing to do. And long and short of it is I had an idea where I said, okay, I went to Best Buy, bought a couple of prepaid cell phones, and created a very simple server application on a crappy laptop with a router. And I paired them all up. And then I got my buddies' plays for one day, and I said, okay, for this 7-on-7 period, let's just have them wear this. And, like, I just want you to hit send and send the play. And we did that, and it transmitted the play diagram to a handful of the football players on the field. And it was like I just discovered the atom for him. He was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, how can we do this for everybody? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I could barely do it for 3 guys. But I realized very quickly there that there was a problem, and there was a problem that was not specific to one school. It was specific to a lot of the different levels. And it ultimately ended up becoming, kind of how we got started, was just basically seeing a bunch of chaos and understanding very quickly and very intuitively how to solve that problem, because I did have a technical background and I have obviously a deep athletics background. So I understood what the dynamic was between what coaches were trying to achieve and what the players needed to do and get out of it. And that led to the evolution of GoRout. And we've been doing it now I actually had an employee the other day say, we've been doing this for almost a decade. And I looked at him like, who are you talking about? And he goes, you. And I'm like, I just can't believe time's gotten to that point where we've been doing this for this long already.
Well, that's probably a good thing. Like, it seems like you're having fun with it then, and you evolve. But I want to go back. Like, when did you realize, like, wow, holy shit, this is actually a business now. Like, we can scale this thing up. But when was the inflection point, or when you really were like, I'm going all in on this. Let's scale this thing.
Yeah. So it's funny. So when we got to Minnesota, I needed a job. And so I'm a tinkerer and I like to build things. And I was driving my wife nuts, right? Like I had this thing set up in the house. So when you walked in the house, it could read your face. I had a camera system that read your face, and then it played a theme song for you on all the speakers in the house, right? Like dumb shit like that just drove her nuts. And she's like, you need to get out of the house and go do something different. Well, I was driving limo because I took a job. I just needed time to think. I was driving limousine, and I was taking people from Mayo Clinic up to the Minneapolis airport and back. And the whole time I was just thinking and then pitching people in the back, like just trying to bounce the idea, because I'd been working on it now for a little bit. And it's just in my mind, like, does it make sense? Well, one of the guys I drove happened to be the former CEO at Motorola. And we struck up a conversation, and I drove him a couple of times. And at one point he was like, if you ever get a demo of this, I'd love to see it. And at this point, I had grown from just working with the junior college to now a couple high schools, like having them run through the sample. And I got a couple schools signed up to try to use the thing. And so I was starting to see that there was something there. But in terms of like how to scale a business, right, I didn't have the economics or even the wherewithal or know-how to do that. So he kind of was willing to mentor me, but he said, when you get a demo set up and it works, let me know, and I'm interested in taking a look. So I called him up one day and I said, I got a demo. It's working. Really about 1 out of every 3 times, but it worked. And he goes, okay, cool. Like, I'll see you in a couple of hours. And I was like, oh, you're in town. You're in Rochester. He goes, no, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. So he got on his private jet, flew into Rochester's airport. I met him on the tarmac, and he goes, show it to me. And we went through the process, and he goes, how much do you think it's going to take to get this off the ground? Because he loved it. And I said, I don't know, like 150,000. He goes, no, it's going to take more than that. Stroked me a check for $300,000 on the spot. And that's how we got started. I had a couple of customers, and now I had an investor, and now I needed to figure out how to solve the broader, greater solution. And we were very intentional about that process. We spent the first couple of years less worried about scale and more worried about product market fit and doing it the right way. And it was really about 2017 where about a year of like really building and tweaking and getting a bunch of feedback. 2017 was the first year where it really started to take off. And I realized very quickly, like, this could be a solution from people in the NFL all the way down to a 12U Pee Wee football league.
Now, how do you view it? Like, if you look on your website and stuff, you have the wearable components. You had some good macro factors with Apple watches and just digital watches in general getting more popular.
Yeah.
You know, when you describe it to new potential clients or whoever today, you know, how are you really framing it? And then where did that evolve from that initial prototype? Like, what is it today? Like, what is GoRout, I guess, from a 1 minute, overview?
Yeah. So, I mean, what we are at our core is we're a visual coach to player wearable communication system. And so we really offer 2 form factors as a product. We offer a 5-inch fully customized screen display, very similar to like a very dummy smartphone that players in the football practice space wear around their belt, that allows them to see play images, coaching tips, notes, all the different colors and imagery that they need to see to execute potential football play as efficiently as possible. And then on our baseball side, our diamond side, and our gridiron side moving forward, we actually customized a smartwatch. But it's not a smartwatch. It's a medical device, actually, that we partner with a company called Connect America on. What it does is it basically allows you to do the same things you can do on the football device, but now on a much smaller, more dynamic screen. And at its core, what we do best is we get not only the play call, but we deliver the play call with context. So just because we call fastball away In my baseball background, I know fastball away doesn't mean just fastball away. It means my middle infielder needs to take a step to the hole. It means my center fielder needs to take a step to a certain spot in the field, right? So like there's all this other contextual data that goes into executing a single play or a single outcome. And that's what our technology is built on, is coaches built this for coaches and wrap that technology with not only the play call, but the context to allow the player to digest what they need to know at that moment to execute more efficiently.
Very cool. And just providing some context as well, prior company before starting Profluence, I dealt with a lot of coaches, and as we both know, like they can be stuck in the old ways sometimes, old technology. What was the pitch? Obviously, you had your friend, which was a great initial standpoint, but how are you getting a lot of them to adopt this? How are you getting them to see sort of beyond their old ways and into this new way of thinking, and the more digital, the more technologically advanced, more on a cellular type based platform?
Great question. So there's really kind of three components to this. Number one is the reason coaches are so adamant about the way they do things is because it took them a long time to figure out what would that right workflow for them was, right? The beauty of sports is just like politics and religion. It's hand-me-down from generation to generation. So you coach the way you were coached. You play a certain way because you were coached that way. And those blueprints that you get young at your younger ages, they carry forward with you as you become a coach. And then you put your own spin on things. The biggest pushback coaches give about technology is not technology itself. It's the adaptation to a process that they think really, really works, right? Because most technologies require you to adjust a bunch of things to use it. And what we've spent a lot of our time doing, our presentation, our pitch now to them is very much our technology bends to your workflow. And we show them that because when we set up a demo, we have them run the demo. We don't. We show them use your cards, use your pitch calls, use your notes, use your input. And they put it all in, and they can see very quickly that it doesn't change their workflow, B, it expedites the things that they need to get done quicker, but then C, it really does allow them to only have to focus on coaching and not organizing. And so much of coaching, even on the field, is just about organization and making sure guys are here and there, right? The second thing that's really getting coaches to obviously change, or pay more attention is the rule changes. I mean, we've seen the rule changes now at the high school side for baseball and softball. Softball was just announced in the middle of July. The NCAA allowed in-helmet communication on the football side for this upcoming season. We're doing a waiver this fall with the Liberty League, a D3 league in New York. They're using wearables in the NCAA in-game football for the first time ever. People are also recognizing that, and we firmly believe this, in the next 3 to 5 years, more than 24 million athletes in the United States are going to be wearing some form of coach to player. Because at the end of the day, what coaches want and what fans want is to show up and watch those athletes do what those athletes do best, which is perform. And instead of having them worry about all the information they got to try to consume, remember, digest, and then try to execute on, we can just simplify that data, get it to them in bite-sized chunks, and let them go do what they're great at. And that's a better coaching experience because now the coaches can just make sure they're doing what needs to be done. And it's a better fan experience because now fans can really just enjoy the beauty that is sport. And the evolution of a lot of that, and those two things where we really kind of take the lead in the space in all of these different areas, is the simplicity of the use of our technology. And that really becomes the third piece of this, is that coaches, if you show them it can work for them, that's one thing. You can show them how, that it's a need because they can use it in game. That's another. But then the third piece of this is coaches don't want to be engineers. They don't want to set up a bunch of technology. The NFL has now moved to a cellular model for coach-to-coach and coach-to-player communication. Major organizations, the military, a lot of organizations are moving away from the old types of technologies that require a lot of setup or have insecure, bands like, unlicensed radio from like 902 to 928. All those bands inside of those radio communications are very limited, very restricted. They're almost like garage door openers, right? A lot of that technology. It's very antiquated. And it doesn't really suffice to what coaches are trying to get out of these technologies. Our platform was built using the very best in cellular technology with our partners at Core Wireless, and we give a first-in-class, best-in-class experience because all any coach ever has to do is take our product out of the box and turn it on, and they're ready to go. There's no extra steps to set something up. And because of that, that really separates us from any potential competition we have in the space. But it also, again, speaks to the coaching nature of when I show up to the field, I don't want to worry about setting up a bunch of technology. I want to coach.
Now, and I don't know where you attacked more at first, football, or we'll just put baseball and softball together.
Yeah.
But what have you seen from the differences, or how did you navigate that as well? Because obviously they're completely different sports, different markets,
Right.
from the early grassroots all the way up to the pros. How did you attack the verticals? Did you attack one just first? Did you do them together? How did you build that? We'll just call it the go-to-market blueprint or strategy.
So we were a football scout practice technology exclusively until June of 2023. We stayed very, very focused on that market. And it was actually, even though I have a very deep baseball background, my staff actually drugged me kicking and screaming to the baseball space. And I'm so glad they did, because what we did in football, the way we approached the problems, the way we approached the solutions actually really helped inform how we attacked our diamond sports business. Because with the football product, it wasn't just here's the play call. It was here's the play call. Now tell the left guard to do this, and tell the slot receiver to do this, and tell the Mike linebacker he's got to go do this, right? So it was like looking at all these other workflow components that required this play to be successful. When we decided to jump into the diamond space, we launched the diamond space in our business in August of 2023. And since August 1st of 2023, we've signed over 1,000 diamond teams across the United States. The business itself has grown by over 300%. We've grown annual recurring revenues by over 300%. We maintain more than 72% of our teams are under 3-year contracts. Everything in our business has really started to escalate. We're now in 3 different countries. We've expanded into Europe. We're in Canada. We're moving into Australia later this month. So the business itself has really grown. But it all started because we were so focused and dialed into one market and really understanding how to get it right, how to get the technology to do what it's supposed to do. Once we were able to do that, we were able to take that model and all those experiences and be able to now go to a different space and execute very, very efficiently, very quickly to start capturing market share.
Any differences between, we'll just call it youth, high school, college, and pro of selling into them? Like any stories or experiences around that? Because it's something that is often learning. Those are 4 different learning experiences in themselves.
Yeah, I mean, so selling at the top end, we'll give you a good story here. So Kalen DeBoer, who's the head football coach at Alabama, right? He initially bought our product when he was a position coach at Eastern Michigan, became the offensive coordinator at Indiana, brought it to Indiana, became the head football coach at Fresno State, brought it to Fresno, was in the college football playoff last year with Washington, had it at Washington. On the flight to Tuscaloosa, had already placed his order to make sure that when he lands in Tuscaloosa, it shows up. So, that's an interesting one. And what's interesting about that is in those spaces, once a coach determines and knows that it works, they're going to use it for as long as they can possibly use it, right? And we've been able to build really strong brand loyalty because of that. And as you can imagine, when you're talking about Alabama or you're talking about the Green Bay Packers or whoever, right? There's the process of going through the sales window is just so much broader, so much wider, because there's more people that have to have a touch of it. But when you go down to the high school space or the club space, it's really about how can it help me get better? How fast can we go? What can we achieve? And then how much does it cost? And we've been very fortunate to structure our product systems so we can go up and down the vertical efficiently and provide teams at one end an experience and teams at the bottom end a very similar experience, maybe not with all the features and sets. But I think that the thing from Kalen DeBoer is always a funny one, just because he's done it every instance he's gone. And then, his new DC at Alabama, Kane Womack, was the DC at Indiana, went to South Al, became the head coach of South Alabama. brought it there, and now they both have it again at Alabama. And so, again, one of the beautiful things about this industry that we're in is that people know each other, and people know that all these other people use it. And so, as long as we do our jobs, our best sales people, our best initiatives, our best pitch is, we'll call this guy and he'll tell you how they use it, or call this coach and they'll tell you how they use it. And that's been really, really, really rewarding for us to see, because we've built a lot of really strong loyalty in these spaces.
Yeah, that's super cool. And so you've done this a decade now. You've mentioned some international stuff. You just got into the diamond side. What's next? Where do you see, I'm not even going to say the next 10, but what's right in front of you? Where are you trying to go next? Where's GoRout? What's that roadmap look like a little bit?
Yeah, so we just crossed the 2,000 team mark at the end of July in terms of total users. Thank you. Our next milestone is 5,000 users. So we're pushing very hard to get to that. We anticipate we'll achieve that within the next year. So we anticipate that we'll double, or grow 60, whatever it is, 200%, 300% again. And that's really just in the States. We're really starting to expand and push into Europe because of American football, because of the investments the NFL has made over there. American football is growing at about 30 to 35% a year in participation in Europe right now, specifically in Germany and Austria. And so we're very focused on that. We're getting ready to set up an office over there right now. We've now expanded into Australia. We'll be setting up an office down there before the end of the year. As of right now, that could potentially get pushed a quarter or two, but we're working through that process at the moment. And for us right now, it's really about finding all of those pockets and all of those niches now inside of our space. So one of the areas that we're really focused on here in the States, and football specifically, is women's flag football. It's a massively growing space. The NFL is investing in it. Teams are really highly invested in it. And what we offer these women is an opportunity to play the game that they want to play faster and more efficiently. And we've had some samples and demos with some teams already using that, and that's been gone really, really well. And so we're really excited about what those opportunities are. But we're 100% focused right now for the next 3 to 5 years on trying to work with those 24 million athletes here in the States, and the 60 million athletes that we kind of identified broadly, to get as many of them using a GoRout product in whatever sport they're in. And we have some ideas on sport expansion here in the coming months, but we're so new, only a year into our diamond space. We really want to make sure that we firm this up and get our next set of releases out, which will be coming here this fall for diamond, before we look at expanding into anything new.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I appreciate you. Typically the last question or the follow-up to this is, what are some macro trends? You sort of tied those together, so I won't go there, but I will ask, you started the product, you're essentially the head of product, right? You're building all that, and now you've scaled this to, you got a lot of different stuff going on, of setting up offices. Your transition, how have you managed that? What has changed, I guess, also from your day perspective of, I'm so focused on just getting the best product, to now, how much time do you spend on that? Are you still innovating on product versus, really managing and leading the company? What does that look like, and how have you managed it? I'm sure there's some good learnings in there as well.
Yeah, I think it's certainly evolved, obviously. Probably in the last 24 months has been the biggest evolution for me. We've expanded now from, at the same time last year, we were at 12 employees, that now we're just short of 30. So organizationally, we've expanded pretty aggressively. The biggest transition for me is just simply learning how to let go. It's like understanding that I can't be in every meeting and I can't know everything, right? And even on the product side, I'm very much still involved in product development. I'm very much still focused on how do we keep driving the best possible product. But instead of trying to sell during the day and then code at night, now I get the opportunity to sit back and really just watch my development team, my engineering team do their job. And I'm more in part growing in more to the strategy and looking at the outlook and, hey, okay, 24 months from now, this product really needs to be in this space and needs to look like this and needs to be functioning this way. And that allows me to give a little bit larger vision of where we're going, but then also look for strategic opportunities for partnerships and integrations to really value add to the product itself. And those are things that even 24 months ago, just weren't even available because my head was so down into building. And it's great. I mean, it's, for me personally, it's been a big growth opportunity. I can tell you 24 months ago, 12 months ago even, not that anybody wanted to speak with me on a podcast, but I certainly would have had the time to do them. And this is, these types of things are really, really, they're fun, but they're also really rewarding because it does show that we've been able to kind of make that transition, and I can start to look outward instead of always looking down and looking inward on the business. And for me, that's a really, really fun place to be, because now I get to kind of go back and do what I did when I first started this, which is dream and really think about what's coming forward in front of us versus just trying to figure out how to make it all work.
Yeah, I just read a book. It's pretty interesting. It sort of describes a lot of what you're saying, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but they talk about the visionary and the integrator, and you were sort of serving both for a while, and now you're back to the visionary side, which is cool, and building the brand. And
and that's an EOS topic. That's an entrepreneur operational systems, and we use EOS in our business. We just implemented it about 24 months ago.
Awesome. Yeah, it's I don't know why I'm blanking on it. It's a good one. I'll put it in the description for this podcast. But yeah, Mike, no, this has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you shining some light. Super cool project, and love seeing the accomplishments and many more to come. But let people know where you guys at online. What's your website, socials, anywhere to learn more and get in contact with whoever's the right person at your organization.
Yep. So our website is GoRout.com, GOROUT, no E.com.
No E.
And then we're on Twitter at @go_route. And we're on Facebook and Instagram at the same handle. And if you reach out to our website, there's forms on there you can fill out, and either sales or support or our media team will get back to you with any inquiries.
Love that.